What if cows could speak? Especially dairy cows. They will probably share some of the horrors of the dairy industry, but also about many dairy farmers that really try to take the best care they can for their animals, but fail. Their cows are not healthy nor happy. Their bank accounts look worse every year, and their mental health and marriages are shaky. Intensive dairy, unless you're massive, is a very difficult business. Yes, all dairy cows and cows for that matter should be almost, depending on your context, permanently outside. And yes, the cows should stay with the mothers as long as possible to be even talking about regenerative dairy. But for many dairy farmers, this is a long distance pipe dream, and we need to meet them where they are. If we don't give them concrete tools now, they will never change and get out of business. And no, dairy won't disappear anytime soon. The market will just be absorbed probably by bigger dairy cow factories with cows who never see grass or sunlight. So how do we change this gridlock? By taking technology used in racehorse industry to make the cows and the herd speak. What is missing? What could be changed? And surprise, surprise, there is a lot of low-hanging fruit in improving dairy cows' lives, practically overnight, from better minerals to more water points, and of course the holy grail, super diverse pasture management. This leads to healthier cows, less vet costs, more milk, and importantly, potentially better, healthier milk, and thus healthier people. It's a bit too early to connect this also to nutrient density and quality, but it's the direction of the journey. We touch upon much more, the risk of raising money from the wrong parties for such a disruptive technology. Many people win with this approach, the animals, the farmers, but many people lose, the input companies and pharmaceutical companies probably. Suddenly it's clear which interventions work and which don't. And how is it to raise finance as a female founder? Surprise, surprise, not very easy. Especially male investors waste a lot of your time. Get ready for a conversation about disruptive tech, dairy farming margins, raising capital, and racehorses. This episode is made possible by our investment syndicate, Generation Re, where we invest together in early-stage regenerative food and agriculture businesses, like this one. Find out more on gen-re.land. This is the Investing in Regenerative Agriculture and Food podcast, where we learn more on how to put money to work to regenerate soil, people, local communities, and ecosystems, while making an appropriate and fair return. Welcome to another episode today with the co-founder of Antler Bio, which helps dairy farmers identify and address factors limiting their herd's full potential. They connect genomics and environment. To make it concrete, it helps to find the factors that switch off good genes and discover the most impactful interventions. Usually meaning getting cows outside and on better pasture management with different feed, minerals, etc. But most importantly, they can show what actually works financially and environmentally, and of course when it comes to animal welfare. They make regen ag in dairy profitable and visible. Welcome, Maria.
Yay, thank you, Kurun. So happy to be here.
And this one has been a while in the making because we've known each other for a bit. We are, full disclosure, investors with Gen Re twice now. We doubled down on the latest round. And I think at the time I said, whenever you want, come on the podcast because we need to talk about this. But I also understand you want to be a bit further along before you get on a mini, but still a stage. And so it took a bit of time, but we scheduled. And after we saw each other at Groundswell, you were wearing some interesting cow suits and got a lot of attention. And which I mean is a very smart way to get dairy farmers involved. But we're going to unpack all of that today. And I want to start with a personal question we always love to ask. In this case, I know a bit of the background story, so it's a very interesting journey. How come you spend most of your time, most of your waking hours, focusing on soil?
Oh, wow. I would say because soil, I mean, it's kind of the start of everything, right? So it's the source, right? Because from that you grow animal feed. And we see that when the cows that we work with now, they eat the feed coming from the soil. We already see patterns in the data that the healthier soil basically you have, the more nutrients you have in the feed. That's then passed on to the cows, and then the cows will be obviously healthier, much happier because their metabolism works well, and then from there onwards, you can only imagine what sort of produce these sort of cows produce. Hopefully, more nutrient dense produce, and that will have an impact on the humans. So it's I'm a cell biologist and a nerd, and everything, comes down to the cell, and like us bridging the data one day from soil to animal health to then the produce to eventually human health. is something we're super ambitious about. But now the focus is on the cow. So yeah, we have to stay focused.
And what led you to the dairy industry? Because with cell biology and a nerd, it could be many, many different places to put that to work, let's say. And even on the nutrient density, there's a whole world to work on. But it's definitely one of the most neglected pieces of our puzzle at the moment. And so that's why we pay so much attention to it. But how come dairy?
Yeah, it's a good question. And now I was kind of reflecting back when you said that you've invested like twice already, and I remember the first time I pitched to you, and we had an intro call, and kind of I told you about what we were doing. We were actually like we were going to do dairy, or we were like moving into the dairy space, but I was pitching an idea to you, and that's because our technology started in horses. So it's a bit of a funny story, and obviously we can like I could spend like hours over a beer talking about this story. But yeah, the technology started in horses. We were doing fantastic research with one of really famous breeder in breeding standardbred racehorse trotters, and yeah, we were looking at why genetically similar racehorses perform in a different way on the racetrack and the environment's effect on that. And obviously, we had what we do basically is we take the latest information and the latest methodologies and all of that from the human space and apply it to animals. And that's why we decided to focus on like looking at RNA and looking at gene expression in horses, which then that data, like I don't want to bore you now about that and go too much into details, but we had like really good results. So we were kind of going towards product development in the horse space. Everyone was really excited, especially the breeder. They invested in the company and all of that. We always knew that this technology is species agnostic, and everything we build, all the protocols and all the data analysis and everything is species agnostic, so that we can basically feed any data into like our systems, and then we can get insights out whether you're a horse breeder or a trainer, or whether you're a dairy farmer or a like poultry farmer. It's species agnostic. So we knew that we were gonna expand, but we were kind of comfortable at the time, just doing R&D, and you need to focus obviously, because if you do too many different things, you're never gonna deliver something like a new product to the market. And then COVID hit, and that was a big crisis for us, because obviously during COVID and the pandemic and the lockdown, no one was interested in racehorses at the time. Or very obviously the breeders were interested in horses, but not interested in new technology. And they didn't want to put more money into that. So all kind of the funding stopped, all our projects stopped. It was kind of a moment where that it accelerated the transition to another species. And I happen to have it's a combination of two things. Happen to have good connections in the dairy space in Finland. I'm originally from Finland, so I had some people there. I knew I could start to bounce the idea of transitioning this into the dairy space, and they also would have like customer access. So that makes it like very tangible. Another thing is that the kind of the price of sequencing is still quite high. It's dropped massively. It's one of the things in the world, I think, that's dropped most in price. So when the human genome was sequenced, it was cost like for the first time, it was costing something like $1 billion, or like it's in the billions. But now you can sequence a genome for like hundreds. So yeah, we've come to a point where it's feasible to do also on livestock. But then it's still quite expensive if you think about like aquaculture or poultry, for example. But the dairy cow,
you needed something big enough.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
not too small.
Yeah, and an animal that earns quite a lot and has the potential to earn a lot of kind of profits during its lifetime, basically.
So probably not a beef cow, but a dairy one makes sense. That's why he
Yeah.
started in horses, because of course, when you find that, because I think, if I remember correctly from the story, that it was like the horse industry, of course, is very focused on results. And it's very difficult to predict, like two amazing horses or two amazing gene pools somehow together doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be another one. And of course, if you have any more insight into predictability there, like these horses, when there's an outlier, get sold for, I don't remember what kind of, but insane amount of money.
Exactly.
But of course, if you have any more predictability there, it's a very interesting insight. So I can imagine they were investing until COVID hit, and then nobody was
Yes.
interested in racehorses. But in dairy, yeah, a dairy cow over her lifetime has quite a bit of value, and also their predictability and like herd management, and being able to start selecting is of course a potential huge piece compared to poultry, where yeah, the lifetime of a chicken, if we like it or not, it's just not so much. Even if
Exactly.
she's laying eggs, it's less than a year, and that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, and we like the time is gonna be right for chicken, but
You're
that
riding the
comes a bit
wave of
later. Yeah,
genome.
exactly.
Yeah,
That's
you're
the
riding the
thing.
wave
Yeah,
of You start at a
exactly,
place where it makes sense now, and then
exactly. Yeah, and also because well, now also in dairy cattle we do a partial herd. So when we sample a farm or the farm, we deliver a kit to the farm, and the farm subscribes to our service. And we pre-select animals to be sampled. They never sample the whole herd. It's a partial herd approach, which makes it feasible in the future also for poultry, for example. But yeah, as I said, focus. Now we're like laser focused on cows, but bearing in mind the holistic picture of the whole, like not only different forms of livestock, but also the whole picture, as I said, like kind of from soil to, even human health.
yeah, and I think it's such a fascinating piece on technology and the deep tech space, like these kind of exponential curves in terms of technology development and price drops, which we've seen in solar, which we've seen in batteries, of course, Moore's law, and now Moore's law we sort of got, let's say, um, uh, exited in terms of AI development at the moment.
Yes.
But these price drops have been like from a few billion to a few hundred. Like we're very bad at exponential numbers as human beings, but that's such an insane drop of price. And if that continues, it enables a lot of other things. Of course, it enables a lot of other things as well. And we've been doing interesting experiments that might are a bit risky, but it also enables to actually get insights into things we never could do. Like even a third of a herd would be impossible a couple of years ago because it would be too expensive, unless you were a research farm or unless
Exactly.
you were a hobby farmer with a lot of money on the side. This would just not be feasible. And if we can continue to see that line going down, it means chickens at some point will be relevant, and maybe even fish. And anyway, all those. And so getting to, you already said, we sample part of the herd, we send a kit, meaning they take a bit of blood from every cow or from those cows selected, send it to a lab, and then what does it tell a farmer beyond what he or she already knows? Like, what is it? Why are farmers knocking on your door, which they are, to get this information that they couldn't see with their eye, or their veterinarian cannot tell them?
Yeah, I'd say maybe like in a nutshell, this is the closest kind of that you would get to the cows, like being able to speak about like what's going on in their metabolism. We see, and this now depends completely on the farm, because you have different farming systems, you have different like husbandry practices. Every farm has its different kind of issues and things that, are characteristic to the farm. And because that's reflected in the data we look at, which is RNA, the results depend on the farm. It can be nutritional deficiencies. Very often we see those. Like the nutritional bit is never like fully optimized, and all of these farms would use some sort of like analysis on the feed and have a feeding expert that they work with and
And
come up with a
still,
female plan. Yeah, and still, we can deliver insights. So that's like one thing. We also see a lot, like if the farm is struggling with kind of hygiene issues, we see that, or with inflammation, which might not even be related to hygiene directly. It might be related to deficiencies. Like we have one farm actually that's really interesting, top notch, so clean, like everything, super good husbandry. Everything is like textbook. You could drop a sandwich on the floor and basically eat it. almost in the barn. But they still came up like with a lot of inflammatory signatures in the data, and that was because of nutritional deficiencies, and then that having an effect on hormone levels, and then that having an effect on kind of causing low level inflammation and imbalance in the immune system, which meant that like they were more prone to mastitis, and that was something they were saying, that like they don't understand the barn is so clean, but they still have quite a lot of cell count in the milk. They also have like somatic cell count, and they also have quite a lot of mastitis, which they wouldn't, normally see in like everything is top notch. So these sort of insights, and that was linked back to feed. So yeah, it's very interesting. One farm we saw like a dehydration signature in a part of the herd, like not the whole herd. And these happened to be like quite underperforming animals, although they had like the genetic potential was there to produce, but they weren't producing. And that came down to the positioning of the water troughs in the barn. So the dominant cows wouldn't let these animals, drink enough, and they would be a bit stressed every time they would go and drink. And the farmer installed like another water trough, and we saw like improvement in the milk yield in those cows that were not getting enough water earlier, and also the signature disappeared in the next sampling. So it's very interesting.
And very fast as well, like these feed things and water and I mean are things that might take a few months to fix or to readjust. Of course, pasture management is a different thing. We'll get to that. But these are things that are the genetic potential is there, and they are not performing. They're actually suffering as animals. Like animal welfare piece is of course massive if you're hormone imbalance and you have inflammation, etc. And somehow it's not being picked up by the veterinarian, it's not being picked up by the farmer, just seeing, okay, these are not performing because the data you have is their milk performance. That's sort of it. And then basically this shows in a week or in 2 weeks, like what actually is happening in the herd or part of the herd that you sample, of course. I'm imagining, farmers are quite excited about that. And then the pasture piece, like how important, like when you talk to feed, and like in the sampling you've been doing, because you've been to quite a few different kind of farms, predominantly inside, predominantly outside. What have you seen? What have you seen there?
Yeah, we've seen, for example, I'm going to throw like these really tangible examples at you, but which is probably good. So, for example,
the more concrete, the better.
Yeah, exactly. We had quite a few farms in a certain region that receive, like one of the recommendations they would receive is to consider supplementation with choline. And in this region also, farmers were quite baffled because choline wouldn't be something that they thought they needed. Like it's not trendy, or it's not like, I don't know, well, maybe trendy is a horrible word, but just to simplify it, it's not like the supplement to buy there. So that was like, first of all, they were like, super kind of mind blown by, hey, do I actually need to buy choline? Some farmers hadn't even really heard about it. So we see that. And then there was one farm in this region that didn't have that choline signature. Now, this farm, and so we work a lot with farmers, so I love to put my boots on and go and talk to the customers, because I'm not a dairy farmer and I understand that. And we need to build something that helps the farmers and really, really, brings them like insights and is useful to them. So me and the entire team, we love to put our boots on. So I put my boots on a year ago, I think this was. And I visited this farm that had like a different, you could see that there's like, they didn't have so many nutritional issues. Which was peculiar because in that region we saw a lot of patterns in, like I said, the choline thing. And then I asked the farmer, I just said like as a kind of jokingly, like, yeah, you probably have your soil, in good health because, this like your profile looks really good. And he got so excited. He was like, you have no idea. I'm such a soil geek. Like I love soil. And I believe that's where, my animals, if they can get the best feed, and that comes from the best soil, so I take care of the soil, and I'm looking after it, and I like to test it and make sure that there's everything, like the kind of flora in the fauna in the soil, and the microbiome is good, and he was sourcing kind of not traditional, fertilizers. He was looking into alternative ways, which were more kind of in line with nature, to fertilize the soil and so forth. And it was just kind of those things. And I know this is now like a one-off example, but we get the data from the farmers like continuously, and it's something we want to build a picture of. That we actually back this, like have hard evidence and hard data, and scientific results that back up these sort of instances that we see. And there will be many more. So as more farmers sign up for EpiHerd, the more they contribute to this sort of work of understanding like what some farms are doing right, maybe on the in the region space, and then we can also advise farmers in the future who are not into those practices to adopt some practices, at least to increase the soil health, for example, because we do see a difference.
And also on, maybe it's too early to ask, but like on grazing management. And I mean, of course, there's a difference between having healthy soil, harvesting that as hay or silage, and feeding it still in a barn, partly or a lot, or having the herd outside almost permanently, or permanently in most places. That's more than possible. We've seen the winter feeding with bay hills, etc. Like, have you some of those outliers that really take it to the extreme in the dairy space? And have you had those? And how do their profile, their herd profiles look like?
Yeah, so unfortunately, it's a bit too early. Maybe in the next episode, I'll be able to talk about this because
stay tuned.
Because stay tuned, definitely, because we're signing up like a lot of those farms that were like mindful about the different farming systems, and we have like a program that we need a certain amount of farms with a certain farming practice. And also we would usually, with these sort of farms, we would work quite closely. So that would be more like a collaborative effort as well. There's going to be like, it's a hybrid, like collaboration and a service in the kind of same package, just to dig deeper into this, because the insights are
what's
there.
Possible. Yeah, what is possible.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's like everything is in the data, right? So, and we want to capture that. So that just signing up, like having different farming systems sign up for EpiHerd, even having the kind of I don't know, I don't want to sound rude, but these sort of very, very highly intense systems where animals are, like they're not able to move, for example. It's very important that we get the data from these and the samples from these farms as well. And of course, we can help these farms too. And then we need that data just to be able to compare these different systems.
And do you see that
it gets very complicated?
No, of course. But do you see that sort of space? Because I remember, I think, talking to Naeem, TFT, who also invested, and we run the syndicate together. And he was saying it's interesting because they seem to work a lot with that's more low-hanging fruit, like relatively intensive. You would expect like the regen crowd to be all over it. Maybe now they're coming, but like to the really front runners, he said actually they're working with a lot of them where there's so much low-hanging fruit that in a few months or in a year, there are massive differences, be like also financial, possible, but they're definitely not the full pasture-based rotational grazing systems yet. And do you see that as well? Did that surprise you? Is that first of all true? And second, did that surprise you in terms of cohort of people and farmers that came to you that you're working with? Compared to what you maybe had in mind before diving into the dairy space?
Well, no, I'm not sure. Correct me if I didn't understand your questions correctly, but okay, for me, because there's a scientist, I know I'm the CEO and I'm very like dealing with the commercial bit at the moment, but there's still like a scientist in me, and my background is in cell biology. So I would say like I don't have enough experience yet, because in general, the farms that sign up for EpiHerd, like we've had like it's a low threshold to sign up, regardless of the farming system. And probably because we started in Finland, just because of the kind of network that was there, and we did a proof of concept, and now we have farmers as well in the UK. First Irish farms are subscribing. We're getting some farms in the Netherlands soon. We have farms in Sweden now, so we're kind of expanding at the moment, and fueled by the funding round, obviously. But we haven't gotten there yet to have such a big volume that I'd be able to say that, okay, these guys are definitely they have a lower threshold to sign up for EpiHerd.
And in terms of like first results, or what does it mean financially for the first, of course it's early, but for the first farmers, like making those changes, just like those early changes of the water system and changes of some certain supplements, some certain minerals, which of course cost money, but nothing compared to what these high productive cows need to or can perform. Like, what have you seen there in terms of examples, what it means for the farmers and for the farmers' daily life and of course their pockets?
Yeah, I think, well, in Finland now, they have a really tough situation when it comes to like financials. At the moment, I think the dairy sector is in like even the financial stability of it is worse than it was after the Second World War. So, and they're still keen to sign up. Obviously, some farmers like they don't they're not able to because they are struggling like all really so much that they can't even afford to buy the service really, which is unfortunate. But those who do, we see that they're keen to adopt changes. We do have some farms who haven't adopted any changes, but usually those are because of, there's some kind of external reasons for that. So there would be maybe, a divorce or something like happening, on farm, or a change of like that the farm is kind of transitioned from the father to the son or the daughter or something like that. That's like the reason behind it. So what we see is in general that farmers are really keen. Obviously they buy EpiHerd to get insights, and then the next step is to apply like those changes on farm, at least some of them. We have a few farms that tick all the boxes. They're amazing. Like they've done everything.
And you see that back in like the next cycle.
Yes, we see that. We see like the effect in the data, and also we see the effect. Obviously, the effect of that we see in the milking data already before we sample another time. So, and next sampling we would see an improved profile. And kind of in terms of the continuity, it's also been very like farmers are excited because they feel that if they would stop sampling and stop adjusting. Because there's always like a new batch of feed, or there's a new season, there's a new year, whether like all of these variables that affect every farm, even if you have everything like top notch, they say that they would fly blind without the service basically. So they want to keep on testing, and some even want to test more often than what is like our regular testing interval is once per year at the moment. So we have farms asking for like twice per year. We have a few farms asking for quarterly testing. So it's
and what does it mean,
positive.
like in terms of on an average, of course, or what an example in terms of more milk or less disease, like less veterinary cost, like just what it means for a farm practically when they start adjusting. What's in it for them, or what's the return apart from the animal welfare, obviously?
Yeah. Most of the farms see more milk, and we've designed the whole like kind of analysis and everything. The first thing we have tapped into is milk yield, because that translates directly into money for the farmer, and it's the like kind of harsh reality that is the number one most interesting thing, and the reason why you would buy a service like this kind of in the first place in most cases. So yeah, milk yield increase. However, we also see health effects in farms. For example, less ketosis on farm. It's something I've heard like very often.
What does that mean for the non-dairy people?
Yeah, so ketosis, it's like a situation where the dairy cows' metabolism cannot kind of sustain itself, which means that the dairy cow collapses on farm, and they call it like a down cow, in kind of, in layman terms. So you will need to get the vet in for that, and the vet needs to be there for like couple of hours. So that's already like a cost, and then you need to force feed the like propylene glycol into the cow for it to be able to kind of recover from that state of ketosis. That will cause like the milk yield obviously to drop in this cow for a long period of time is massively stressful. It's like a huge emergency situation. So that's something that we see less because the metabolism is in better shape, because the cow is getting what it really needs, and everything's a balance, right? Yeah.
That like it seems in agriculture and regen, like we're starting to see some companies similar to you, but like in, let's say, to figure out what the tree really needs, like to do that kind of analysis in field or regularly enough that you can actually do something. Because unless you have a few generations of experience and you look at your herd every day for hours and you really can observe very well, it's apparently very, very difficult to understand what a cow needs. And unless they're not really able to talk, this is as close as we get. Often, even with the most willing, most clean barn, etc., you're just not optimizing at all. Like there's so much low-hanging fruit in almost every situation, which makes it very humbling, probably, and very interesting experience. Like there's so much we didn't know or we thought was fine, but actually turns out to be they're missing X, Y, Z, or half the herd is not getting water because the other half is dominating the water trough, and things like that. Makes it, we came very far in the dairy industry with all the issues it has. I'm not denying that at all. This is obviously a hugely problematic industry, but we came very far, and it didn't seem like, and not so far at the same time. It seems like if the things you're discovering are very basic, like minerals, water, certain feed things, of course, pasture, outside, sun, inflammation, very similar to the human side of things. Let's also not deny that. Like I think many of us are underperforming in those things as well. And now we're starting to go look at biomarkers, and we're starting, like, there's a lot of functional health space for the human side, but this is like the dairy version. And it just, triggers like what else we don't know on agriculture in terms of trees, in terms of chickens, in terms of fish. Like we have probably no clue, basically.
Exactly.
Which makes it very exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting, but it can give you a headache as well because it's so
at the same time.
It's so, and everything's interconnected as well. So it you change something there, and then that has an effect. So on other things.
Have you seen some
network.
of those, like negative effects or unintended consequences? Or maybe like something you thought, okay, we supplied this mineral and suddenly actually, or whatever, and it didn't move in the direction. Of course, it's not a machine.
No, actually no. So everything and we're very strict on what we report. So currently, like the amount of data from one cow is like that we get is crazy. So because we sequence all the genes that are expressed in the cow, if you would, it's like letter code, 4 letters in the RNA that it's like the letters, they make up a code for each gene. And you could actually take the data, because it's in letters, you can print the data into books. So if we make like a book of, like 10 centimeter, like kind of book out of this data, you would have so many books that you would end up with a pile as tall as the Statue of Liberty. For one cow and one sampling also.
Of course.
So every time you sample, you create another Statue of Liberty full of data.
Hence all the extra server parks we're building. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's another thing. Oh dear.
But probably with the explosion of analyzing that now, like you're going to get insights and see insight over the next years as machine learning and AI gets easier and better. Yeah.
Exactly. And right now what we're reporting out of this data is like, if you imagine the iceberg in the sea, we don't even report the tip of the iceberg. We like report the snow which is on the tip of the iceberg. type of
How
thing.
did you select that? What did you select to put
So
in or not?
yeah, so we use like insights that are already backed up by scientific literature and studies and validated work. So we don't go and say, hey, we think there is something here, you should do these changes. This is like what we report is absolutely solid, and you as a farmer, you also get the list of references that you can, because you would work normally with your vet, you would work with your nutritionalist, and then you would look at these things together, and the vet could access those articles and studies, and that's kind of something we're very strict about, that we don't report anything like anything that's not been validated yet. So yeah, and that will change obviously as we find new insights. We validate those. We can feed those also into what we can report to the farmer. So when you sign up for EpiHer now, even the samples you send in like next week, they will probably serve you like 3 years from now.
Because your
Yeah,
capabilities of reporting and of making suggestions just
exactly,
incrementally increases over time with
exactly,
more data and with more science and et cetera,
exactly.
et cetera. And then because you sample the genome, and often when people hear that, they go, oh, the gene side of things is very touchy
Yeah.
in terms of editing, which obviously you're
Yes.
not.
No.
And what you're doing is the epigenetic side or epigenetic side.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know if there's the S or not. Anyway, is what switches on certain genes, or what clicks or switches on those buttons basically or not, which often turns out to be environment and feed and minerals and the things,
Exactly.
sunlight and all the things we've heard. And so it decides if a gene expresses itself or not. I think that's the
Exactly.
basic. Does it suggest that you're going to make changes, or farmers are going to use this to make changes in the herd as well, and in like selecting over time? Is that something you're thinking about, like to make the herd more adapted to their circumstances, potentially, hopefully, being more outside? What kind of pasture can they
Yeah.
actually grow in Ireland versus Finland versus Italy? Very different. And because and this is a long a long way to ask a question, but we've really made, I think, the genetic pool, specifically in chickens, but in many other places, very, very narrow,
Yeah.
which is tricky. Of course, if you're all inside, you have exactly the same feed, sort of okay. But if you start like wandering out more, you need other genes. Like, what do you think there, and how do you see that these kind of tools to enable, let's say, more complexity and more
Yeah.
resilience as well?
Yeah. Yeah. I think yeah, very good question. And also, so currently we're looking at the RNA and the patterns in the RNA. So we're not looking at the molecular switches, like for example DNA methylation that causes some genes to be permanently like switched off or less easily accessible, or accessible and switched on. But that's obviously, we're aware of different sorts of data, and also the pipelines we built is supporting different types of like this omics data. So that sort of like epigenomics data is something we will be interested in the future. We do biobank a lot of samples so that we can do this sort of validation. And yeah, that's I can see maybe in a few years' time. Yes, there will be some insights we'll be able to share on that front, like kind of for how like what sort of inherit, even like gene expression patterns, and these sort of methylation, genomic imprinting as they call it, or it's called. It's shown that it's inherited as well. So that sort of all these inheritance patterns and everything is something we're going to look at. But currently we don't report that to farmers, but we are very much aware of it. So very interesting topic, and also especially when you are transitioning maybe cows, that have always been indoors to outdoors, like we might be able to predict or predict for you as a farmer where you should buy your cows from. If you need to buy more cows and you're looking at transitioning to a different farming system, what is kind of where do you have the highest probability of succeeding there?
Which is, of course, fundamental data for any potential successful herd. I remember, I think it was in the interview, I don't know if we discussed it in the interview, but with Fred Provenza and But for sure, it's in his book where he talks about a herd research, I think, on the beef side, like over the years, over like a herd somehow outside. This is in the U.S., mostly outside. Gets like there's a certain knowledge transfer between the different generations on what to eat, where to eat, how to eat,
Yes. Yeah.
and they basically challenged that by moving a herd from one place to the other, and it was completely lost. Like it
Yeah.
didn't know where to get the medicinal plants. It had like the herd
Yeah. Yeah.
really learns, even if there are different generations in between. Like there is a pattern there. Of course, potentially in the genes, but mostly like the older cows will definitely teach you what to eat in
Yeah.
what moments and
Oh, no,
how
well,
and what. Yeah,
well,
well, maybe in the
that's
genes.
all.
Yeah,
Well, yes, it's also like behavioral patterns are learned from the kind of the mother or kind of
the
your parents.
matriarch. Yeah.
You would learn behavioral patterns and what to do from them. However, there's studies, and there's one interesting study that shows where they were looking at rats and kind of fear of a certain smell of these rats. And these rats inherited a fear of a certain smell, like it was a fruity, kind of like this molecule that gives a fruity smell.
Even though they
And
were never exposed to it or the
yeah, they were
punishment.
never
Yeah.
exposed to their parents and the parents' behavior. They were separated at birth. They still like inherited this fear of smell. And they had a higher kind of density of these like receptors that picked up that molecule from the air in their kind of nasal cavities. So it's
Which
yeah,
makes us
very
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 humble
interesting.
about genes. Yeah, that's
Yeah. So in that sense, that it's very interesting. Yeah, we don't really know what you can inherit and what's kind of learned from your parents. I'm sure I think we'd be surprised. Like there's already that sort of evidence out there that shows that a lot of interesting things can be inherited. Via like genomic imprinting and epigenetics.
yeah, very interesting. I remember it's not inherited. I remember a video or a description, I think, from Anne van Leeuwen, a lenteland farmer at Gagel in the Netherlands, that have been testing leaving small chickens or chicks with their parents or with their mother for much longer, and so they pick up how to eat and how to hunt for insects and how to weigh more than, of course, if they're in a breeder inside, never seen the flock until they get outside. And they just tested it very smallly, but there's a massive increase or massive impact on that small flock, and also in terms of health, in terms of issues, because yeah, they are trained and probably can express a lot of things that anyway were buried in them, but cannot be expressed if you're inside under a brooder lamp. So I think there's so much, yeah, let's say blue ocean in the animal
Yes,
husbandry, especially if we start connecting it, and you're not there yet, but to the quality of the milk and then the human
exactly.
health, because then it becomes something people or industry might want to pay for. If it's
Yes,
connected to lower costs, etc., of course, there's massive, and just more milk, it helps farmers tomorrow, which is fundamental and needs to happen. But for a sector to change, we need to start showing that pasture management and pasture is in all means superior, almost always superior, and make sense. Of course, not easy, because there's a reason we put everything inside and industrialized it. But then also we're going to need more different genetics. We're going to meet different cows and different feeding patterns and all of that, which is very interesting to think about how much is hidden in that data.
yeah, exactly.
And like on this journey from horses to dairy cows, like, and you've raised quite a bit of money. I always like to ask this question of what would you like to tell or would you like to share with the financial industry, with financial people, meaning people that manage their own money or other people's money. I always like to say, let's say we do this in the theater. We had a fascinating deep dive on dairy. We might even taste different things, maybe different milks and different dairy steak from Dan Barber and things like that, just to with a room full of investors, maybe in Helsinki or somewhere where there are a lot of, let's say, the financial heart nearby you. But then, is there one thing you want them to remember? Because people forget. Next day at work, they might be excited, but they don't really grasp everything we discussed on stage. If there's one seed you want to plant in the financial mind from all the experience you have, what would that seed be?
Oh wow. Okay. I think it. So for me, because I started the company from totally like zero. This is not a spin-off from the university or anything, and this is like a subject that's really kind of close to my heart because I've walked the walk and I couldn't walk it. And, my team walks the walk with me, and we couldn't do it without the investors. And like you're
just
like
saying this
you're
because
a
I asked the question.
superhero. No, but seriously, you're like a superhero. And never forget that, because this is like we're unlocking an entire layer of data, new layer to an entire sector, and beyond also. Not only, like as I said, species agnostic, great potential, like from soil to human health. Like it's not just one sector we're working with here. The impact is massive, and my life would be different if it wasn't for people like you and the investors who come to these events. So somehow, like, I don't know, I think that's super important, and for early stage investors to really, like, they're heroes, because new stuff like that makes the world a better place comes out. That's like my genuine answer. I don't know how to how to implement that, like in an event in Helsinki, for example. But this
Invest more
is
early
like,
stage, like put
yeah,
money,
yeah,
like put your money where your mouth is, as
yeah,
Tim Wimmick likes to say, which is, or where your community is. I mean, which is true. I mean, I think there's I'm not saying risk, because of course our investments are hugely risky. This is all early stage.
yeah,
Let's not pretend anything different. But there's a lot of money available that should flow and that isn't, because of all kinds of, let's say, holding back things, and we complain and we say there is no deal flow, or there's not enough deal flow, or this or
yeah,
that, or it's not exactly the round hole I would like to squeeze something square through, because I'm expecting, actually I don't know about animals and I want,
yeah,
and they're all valid, but then means there's no innovation whatsoever. And with a little bit of money, because honestly we didn't put a whole lot, and I personally put always 2 or 5K
yeah.
in a deal, it makes a massive difference. And so
It makes, that's the thing. Like, people laugh, and I've been laughed at when I was pitching, and I wanted to raise like 30,000 euros, and they're like, "Huh, what are you gonna do with 30,000?" And that was on a stage in an event, and yeah, it's you can you can do stuff with 30K even. Like, it's yeah, I think people should, like, there should be more support around like early stage companies and founders, and yeah, it's something that's a bit like, it's a bit sandboxy also, because when you start, like, my first presentations, they were horrible, seriously. But when you can look beyond those and see that there's like some potential here, and invest, and then yeah, like, we need more of that,
yeah, and who
because
knows?
I
It
think,
might be one in
yeah,
10 or 1 in 5 that go. I mean, but there's let's say there's a good chunk of the population, and I'm definitely not talking about all, that could put more money in these things.
yeah,
And
yeah, true,
we need
true.
that, and we need more people building stuff. We don't have enough people building
Exactly.
things.
Yeah, because
And
the threshold is so high. Like, it's so hard to. Also, like, the amount of sacrifice I've made is ridiculous. And yeah, I understand why people don't do this. Totally, and that's fine. But now, like, the people who invested, like, you need to know that now every farm that signs up for EpiHerd, like, the cows are feeling better, they're happier, they're less stressed, they have less down cows who lie on the floor and need propylene glycol. The farmers, like, they're making more money, and they're like, this is not, farmers that, or some are, yeah, well, kind of established and economically stable kind of organizations almost. But the reality is that you have farmers who are like, it's a couple, for example, who struggle to even, they're looking at what they can buy for food, because they're trying to, like, help the cows and invest into their, like, to make the life of their cows and the herd better. And they can't even take holidays. They can't go for, to Canary Islands or whatever from gloomy Finland when it's really dark, because they simply don't have the money. And now we have farms that can, and they say that it's so different to go to work.
Do you
because
have an
EpiHerd,
example, like
yeah,
and concrete one? I
yeah,
remember
well,
one example
well, a
somewhere, but
farmer, like this farmer almost made me cry in this one session. We were we were looking at like the user interface of EpiHerd, and I was just there of, like a fly on a wall type of thing because I like to do that. And also the farmer was Finnish, so there's a bit of a sometimes a language barrier. So I'm there to support if sometimes if I need to. And that was like there was a product manager on the call, and she was leading it. And she was asking basically like, what do you think about this interface mockup? And do you find this like, where would you click? And is this button clear? You know, this sort of development questions. And then like in maybe 30 minutes into the call, the farmer just all of a sudden, like we didn't ask anything. He was like giving feedback on the buttons of the interface. And then he started to talk. He was like, yeah, it's, you know, guys, I really like to go to work now, like in the mornings. It's so nice because it's so frustrating to go to work when you don't know what's wrong with the herd and you're trying your best and you know you're running out of money and it's very frustrating when you don't know what's wrong. And EpiHerd showed us what was wrong. And then we could correct it and we could direct the investment, the little investment we had towards those actions. And now like we're making so much more milk. We can, you know, we have booked a holiday. It's like you guys changed our lives. And it's, you know, and I was, you know, putting my hair like this, you know,
in front of your
so that
eyes.
they wouldn't see like, because I was like one of my eyes, the tear was going like down my cheek there. So and yeah, sometimes happy that we're on this, you know, remote calls because I was
Oh, my
trying
video.
to.
Yeah, my connection. I will switch up my
Yes.
video for
Oh,
a
my
while.
connection might be a bit bad here. My voice is shaky. It's the connection. No, seriously, it's like it was amazing. And going back, you know, to your question about the investors, we wouldn't like I wouldn't have been on the call if it wasn't for you guys. Like, so yeah, we need more of that.
I think you
Like,
gave me the
yeah,
title. Sending
it
dairy farmers on holiday is
yes, yeah, and they need more holidays.
they definitely need more
Because they're
holidays.
so hard working. It's ridiculous. Yeah,
And it's such
it's
a
amazing.
yeah, it's such an interesting, again, like they do everything, and of course there's the animal welfare, and they just don't know what's wrong and what's
Yeah,
not working. And even if the cleanest barn is not getting inflammation down, there's clearly
yeah,
something off. And we've seen that also with like a lot of the studies. I think we talked about it long ago when we connected on in with Pierre Wheel of Le Blanqueur in France, showing the impact of feed on omega-3/6 ratios of milk, like very quickly, like in a month or two. They were very worried about soy coming into the country as a feed source, and they were worried about the quality. And they've done, mostly in French, unfortunately, studies on even impact on mothers in terms of what kind of animal protein they were consuming and how the breast milk changed within a month. And all of those studies are there, and it is connected to pasture management. But then if you don't really know what is wrong with which cow or what is wrong with her, you can just say, oh, these are good or these are not. Like that's not a very hopeful message for the struggling dairy farmer that has no
no,
idea how to even get to this amazing
exactly.
example of continuous grazing 360
Yeah,
days outside, etc. Yeah, that's great. But how do you,
exactly,
what do you do tomorrow?
exactly,
And
exactly.
and
Yeah,
and I would add to a message to the investors, like it's you and the entrepreneurs doing the hard work, like really like know your place as well, in a sense of like we all have quite a comfortable,
yeah,
not that I'm a big investor, but it's definitely not that kind of life or death stress of trying to, not life or death of the company, obviously, of trying to run a company and raising 30K here, 50K, 100, trying to build something completely new. Like it requires a lot of it owes us a lot of respect, because all innovation comes from there, even though most of it doesn't work. Like that's the sort of end. Like we owe everything to entrepreneurs building things and to the government and to, but
yeah,
even though we know that probably it's going to fail, unfortunately, like all the startups we see, a big chunk, yeah, it just didn't fit, didn't make it because it's so incredibly hard, as you said before. So yes, we need to back more, but also we need to back off sometimes and let it run
yeah, yeah.
as
That's
it
true.
wants to be run.
Yeah, and I think also because of the like obviously fundraising is very stressful. It's like mega stressful. I don't know anyone who was like said that, oh, it was so much fun and I really enjoyed it. It's super stressful. So yeah, and the setting already, like I think there's a lot of innovation that gets, kind of smothered because people give up just because it's such a harsh environment. And and I know there's a lot of talk about like female founders, and something I've noticed is also that
It's so much
like
easier, right, as a female founder.
yeah, so much easier. No, like it's easy to get to talk to people and get to explain things, but then I've found this that they look kind of down on you as a little girl, and I'm a little girl, but also I know how to execute things. Or yeah, I'm a grown up woman, obviously, but there is a little girl in me, and I'm like to be funny. I'm playful, and that's the way also. With the inflatable cows, I mean, I was fully supporting this at Groundswell. I
At
think that was
Groundswell,
awesome.
but it got you a lot of
Because we
dairy
need to have
people.
fun. Yes, it
It got
did.
a lot of dairy
It
farmers.
did.
Like it was a
It
very
did.
effective
It did.
gimmick.
Exactly. But I face like this sort of, it's hard to get things over the line. Like people in general listen, and maybe they listen even more hours to me because I'm female, but then they end up saying no in the end. So you end up, your time is consumed. Because they like talking to you, like, but then it's like, oh no, we couldn't get this over the line. By kind of, and then some people reach out like, I like that, they're like, how is it going? It was very inspiring. I would have invested if it wasn't for the IC, things like this. But it's
Come
like
to
the
Gen
harsh
Re,
reality.
like come on, like put your own money in it. Don't be like come to our syndicate. This is
Yeah,
not promotion,
exactly,
but
exactly.
if you can apply, and there's
Yes.
no excuses to
Yeah.
that. I find so frustrating that they put it on somebody else. It means if the IC didn't okay it, probably it meant something in the preparation going wrong. Like an IC is like meant, as far as I understand, to okay things that have been prepared really well, and
Yeah.
maybe once in a while send something back because there's some questions. But if it regularly happens, it just
Yeah.
I'm sorry, means you didn't do your job.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
that's like just holding on somebody, especially wasting somebody's time.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
very precious as an entrepreneur. Is just not cool.
True. It's true. And then you try to run the company, like, fundraising is a full-time job. So,
At the
so
same
I think
time,
I think a lot of companies, like a lot of innovation is smothered because of the how things are run on that front, and kind of prove it to me. Like this sort of attitude makes like some brilliant minds and people who are brilliant at executing things are maybe not the best presenters, or they get like super nervous, freeze, whatever, and then there's it just gets like smothered because of you need to fit a certain mold, and there's a lot of innovation going to the drain, I think. Or
do you see a
because
difference
of
with
that.
like female investors and male investors? Have you seen that, or is the sample size? Unfortunately, most investors are white male and certain age.
It's true. Yeah.
But have
I
you
wouldn't say
experienced any difference?
not directly, except yes, I have. Yes, the female investors, they don't waste so much time. Like with me, that's my like experience. So they would say, like, they would be pretty clinical and professional about, okay, this is, like, let's not have more calls because we're not going to invest because of this. Whilst I feel like with male investors, things would drag much longer and longer and longer and longer, and then you put them in the basket of, these are almost over the line, and then they drop off. I've had that like so many times. Yeah, it's
And I'm
it's
sorry
amazing.
for like my whole gender.
No, it's good.
Apologizing.
It's good
No,
to
it's
talk
not
about
good.
it.
It's
Yeah.
wasting time. I mean, you do
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
education
No.
for them, which
Yeah.
is like
Sorry. Yeah.
education
True.
for them, which is also important.
Yeah.
But there are other ways
Yeah.
to educate and not wasting an early stage entrepreneur's time.
Yeah. That's
which
true.
is very
Yeah.
valuable at that point.
I heard something else. Yeah. It's true.
And like with such a potential disruptive, revolutionary technology and approach in a sector, do you worry about competition to a certain extent, but also like the sector is really, I mean, there are forces in the sector that are really dependent on this current model in terms of a lot of supplements, a lot of feed. Like the only ones making money in the CAFO operations are the people selling the genetics and the feed and the machines, pretty much. Probably there's a third or fourth somewhere there, but definitely not the farmers nor the consumers that are getting not amazing quality, and the animals, obviously. And like, are you worried not worried in that sense, but that it's going to be a lot of pushback from certain? Have you sensed any of that? Is that too early? Have they tried to invest as well? You're like, oh, actually, I don't need
Yes.
that, because that might be one of those
Yeah.
examples of buying and shelving at some point.
Yes. Oh, so good. Such a good question. Yes. Let's start from. We've had feed companies who have been extremely interested in investing, and we could have gone down that route with a couple of these companies already in, like, not this round, but the one before. But we decided not to do that because when I put my boots on and I go to the farm, I don't think I've been at any farm who hasn't pointed out the fact. And I love their honesty. Like, honestly, farmers are amazing because they just say like what they think and what they need, like most of. They actually, every farmer probably that I've been to, like, visited and have had coffee table discussions, said, we trust you guys, and also we really like the fact, and that's the reason why we trust you, is because you're not trying to sell us anything. You're not doing the test and then you try to sell us sperm, or you try to sell us these supplements, or you try to sell us like whatever, solutions. Because then we don't know if you're looking at the data and thinking about the best of us, or whether you're looking at the data and seeing how you can make most profit of it yourself, and sell us different things. And it's very common, and I'm very proud about this, that we deliver the data, and you as a farmer, you can look with your vet, with your nutritional expert, whether where you source these things from. We have had some, like, there's been issues sourcing materials, so we can listen to other farmers like in a certain region, and kind of like listen to them where they source certain feed. And some farmers have like approached us and said, hey, we cannot source this, can you help us? So we're figuring out a model, and we're also working like with many feed companies at the moment, just to see like how we could do that in an open way, and not marry ourselves with like one feed company and start selling their supplements. And then the other thing is the data. We get the data, so we will also see what supplements are working
Actually
well.
work.
Which ones are maybe not optimal, and maybe it has to do with the herd, and they're like how they absorb the nutrients. We had one farm that changed vitamin A supplementation. They had all the like kind of looking at even just at the milking data and the herd, there was a lot of silent heats, and there was like these issues that were referring to vitamin A deficiency. But then the feed expert said, like, they're getting enough vitamin A on paper. You can see, like, they're being fed that. But the farmer decided to change to another brand, and like a liquid form, when they had didn't have that before. And 2 weeks from that day when they got the new supplement, they saw a change in the herd dynamics. The cows were more active, less silent heats.
Silent heats, sorry.
Yeah, so that would be so if you have, for example, a milking robot that detects the activity of the animal, so you would monitor the activity through, like, the cows would have a color, and you'd be able to say when they are in heat. But sometimes the system cannot detect it if they're not so active. The activity doesn't change. The hormonal changes are there, and the cow is in heat, but it's not displaying it in the kind of activity patterns. And that's when you call it like a silent heat, because you can't see it. The system doesn't alarm, hey, that cow is in heat, now you should inseminate. So they lost a lot of opportunities for insemination there. And also the cows required more to be inseminated several times before they got pregnant. So that was interesting that they saw a change just from changing the kind of type of supplement they were giving to the animals.
And on terms of like longevity of companies and things like this, often, I mean, this seems relatively quick, but often this takes quite a lot of time to really build to like full potential in terms of a company with this kind of potentially disruptive impact. Have you looked at it in terms of what kind of or type of capital you attract as well in terms of speed of people need exits? I mean, VC funds or traditionally structured VC funds need the exit after max 7, 8 years, maybe pushing it somewhere. Is that something you've looked at? There are not so
Yeah.
many evergreen impact funds, but is it something you looked at in terms of how long this marathon is, or in
Yes.
terms of the let's say the
Yeah.
fitness of the capital to that?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. With a great team, that's a good fit. Your team members, you can build great things, but that kind of thing extends also to the investors, because and I'm so fortunate to now have investors on board who are like, they're there for the long run and they're there for the impact. They're not interested in the short term kind of benefits or numbers, or that they can get their return on investment like in a few years time. Obviously we work hard to be able to get that return of investment as soon as possible, and start also to expand, like just to have a profitable business that we can expand, where we where we are going beyond livestock and well beyond cows first. But having that sort of investors, it's so important, because I feel that's one, maybe going through like the last round, I saw it as one of the biggest risks, because we have it's such a deep technology. It's a huge risk if you get an investor on board who doesn't really care about the technology too much, and they want a short-term like ROI, and then you're never gonna be able to go big, and maybe you even fail because they're pushing you to do like reach different KPIs which are not relevant to the long term and the like sustainability of the business and of this sort of a business. And I found it hard in general with the deep tech like element. It's like few people understand really like the full picture, or even, like, I wouldn't say I understand the full picture of anything. You always learn and develop, but it's hard to find people who truly understand like the more longer term picture and the holistic nature of things. So yeah, having an investor on board that isn't in line, that would almost, like, I could see how that could be fatal for a company. And of course, if you don't have a chance, like, then you need to, like, if you don't have any other like
Yeah.
choice, and any other options on the table,
You take the
then
money. Yeah,
you have to, and then you just need to make sure that they cannot like decide to run the company, for example.
the governance is getting very important there. Yeah.
But then that's gonna drain like the founders of the company and the team, because then we'll constantly have this friction towards investors, because they want to see something and we want to develop something that's really like long-term sustainable and delivers a massive impact and a massive ROI as well. So yeah, very important, very important.
And what would you do? Because this is a nice bridge to, we always like to ask a $1 billion euro question. Like, what would you do if you'd be on the other side and you would be an investor that had to put those amounts to work? I'm not saying it's good that anybody has that kind of concentration of wealth, but I'm saying it just happens. Tomorrow morning, you're in charge of that. And I'm not looking for euro amounts or dollar amounts. We're not giving investment advice, but I'm looking for what are top priorities if you had to do that. And where would be big buckets, let's say, you would be investing if you had that kind of resources available?
Yeah. I'd probably, like, as I said, the early stage is like so close to my heart. I'd probably have something, which is $1 billion is a lot, obviously. So
do you see others
start
like
from
around
there.
you? Yeah. Do you see others around you would love to invest in?
Yeah. Yes. And also I don't have to, like, to be honest, I'm so much in my work. I don't have too much time in like, I do meet founders, but it's kind of by chance and also what I read online. But but I'm not in those like kind of accelerators, seeing everything that's out there, and also the early stage stuff. Like before it's out there, you really need to go somewhere to catch it as well. So it's because it's not gonna be in Forbes or anywhere.
No, but
Like
it must be people
yeah,
reaching out to you because they know your
yeah,
story, they've seen you, and they you must have had sometimes
yeah.
when you
They
have
have
extra time, like a
yes,
one-on-one conversation, you're
yes,
like, oh,
absolutely, and
if I
yes,
had
yes,
some
and
money, I would do this.
yeah, I would. So I definitely like early stage would be a focus. I'd also do more mature investments just to like kind of bring the kind of de-risk a little bit. But then what I'd probably do, because I'd focus on data. Like we love data. So companies that generate data know how to handle it from different like systems, from soil, animals to the kind of nutritional data, market data, all the way to human health, because a billion is a lot now. so yeah, I kind of try to bridge that with different interesting portfolio company opportunities. And then what I do, because everyone wants, like, we'd love to collaborate with people much more than what we can at the moment, and we're delivering a product to the market that we need to build, and it's like resources are like we don't time and the team is like we're really stretched. So just by like delivering this, so I'd love to be able to support collaboration without like taking too much of the team's time. Like they can focus on what they're building. So what I maybe would do, maybe this is crazy, I don't know, I'm not viable, but I'd have like an umbrella organization where I would recruit like a kick-ass team to actually like tap into these companies and to what they're building and the data, and see how we could bridge those together in a more efficient way without taking, because this is like blue sky big things,
Yeah.
and not for the short term kind of KPIs that these companies are dealing with. So I try to
Could also
have
be
have
almost be
that to
like a holding
facilitate.
company,
Yeah,
with
exactly,
strategic investments in these
exactly. Yeah,
companies, and then through that
yeah,
really work on the long term.
exactly. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Interesting. So if somebody's
And
listening, just get
yeah,
in touch with Maria. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, we
I can
could.
put you in touch. Don't worry. Reach out to me. We
Yes,
can make that
but
connection work.
but the key is to have like that team that can do the work, because the teams are not going to have time to do the big blue sky. Like then you're just a
No.
burden if you're an investor and you're like, hey, but now we have this umbrella project you all need to contribute to, and we're going to need 20% of your time for this. It's not going to like work.
So how would you get that out? Do you need to compensate for money with that, or do you need to like a strategic investor in all of these companies?
Yeah, I
What would
think, well,
be
strategic, yeah, investor, but have a team in that umbrella, like
that does
that
that?
does that, and it's a that's a commercial entity itself, almost like kind of, or in a way, and they really need to be good, like yeah, like ambition for kind of have that drive to actually execute and bring those like dots of data together. Yeah, bridge kind of the gap, and that entity could feed like fantastic insights to the companies, and also new IP could be generated that way. So it's but yeah, it's all in the people, I'd say. That's something also I would invest a lot of time in try to like identify the right, sort of. I know where all the investors do that. Probably do the pitching and
Not
all of
all.
that in a bit different way, because yeah, I'm not sure you can pick up on 30 minutes on a Zoom call whether this founder has the
How would
oomph
you do that
to
if
do
you would be
that.
investing? How
I
would you
don't know,
approach that?
do something crazy again. I'd probably put them in a hot tub or something and speak to them like for an even, like I'd arrange something like this. Yeah, to really get to know the people like on a more profound level than just listening on 30 minutes, and not taking into effect the human kind of factor there, because humans, we are the ones who build things. So I think that's massively neglected, and also why the ratio of companies fail. So like when you invest in 10 companies, like 9 are going to fail, because maybe there's a great idea, but then there was another opportunity, like the founder doesn't burn so much for it. Maybe they want to do something else, and there's a greater thing, and they jump. And you need to feel that, like, yeah, the loyalty and the oomph. I don't know how you capture it. It's by sticking someone in a hot tub.
Or in a cow suit or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Do something a bit like outside of the box. I love that. That sort of stuff.
And as a final question, which usually leads to other final questions, but if you had a magic wand and you could change one thing overnight, what would that be?
Oh wow. Because because we're so into data now, and data explains everything. In the end of the day, kind of you can make arguments if you have enough data and the science to back that up, and you can change things by doing that. I would say, like, because data management is not so easy, and in the format the data comes in, it's not always easy to decipher and use it. So if I had a magic wand, and I love to spread this magic wand over to all the companies, even the farmers, like everybody, and they can touch their data with it, and the data would become like fair data, which means that it's findable, it's accessible, it's interoperable as well, and it's reusable. So basically, it standardizes the data and the language, like the formats and the language and everything about the data makes it like standardized in a way that it can be used like in any sort of analysis system. I think a lot of time is spent, and a lot of the challenges come from the data is fragmented. It's in, like you said, there's a lot of research, but it's all in French. And there, this is like just one example, but the data management is not easy, and there's big challenges there. And the reason why we don't have so many insights from the data is because it's hard to kind of verify it. So I'd have the verification magic wand.
And do you see like that's getting easier now with the whole AI hype and boom and dust? I mean, it depends when you listen to this, it might have crashed. But there's definitely something there. I mean, people are
there's some
as
support like that, but then AI, but you know the garbage in, garbage out type of thing, and this is the problem with when the data is not fair, then it's kind of garbage, and of course AI can help with verifying data, but you need to be really strict. It's a complex, just like regenerative agriculture is very complex, and things are linked to each other. And if something goes wrong in one part, then that has a network effect on everything else. I see the same like is with the data, and the AI can, the mistakes and things like that. The AI can make before we're there. Maybe someone will create, if you can create a magic AI wand, that does this. I mean, anything is possible, right? So if someone is listening to this and wants to create the magic wand, that would be a massive help, I think.
Yeah, but I think what's interesting in agriculture and food that we don't have a lot of the primary data. Like we don't know how herds are behaving and why they're not behaving. We don't have the genetic profile. We don't have the genome. We don't have a lot of sensors, honestly. We don't have biodiversity data. We have a lot of models that are, better than no models. But and we don't know how trees are actually doing and what they need or miss. So there's even an earlier step in that process is of how do we gather the data before we even start dreaming about, okay, of course,
it's true. Yeah.
Of course, Antler Bio in a bit, you could feed a lot of the data in a very well guarded garden of a large language model or an AI engine, and then start asking questions, but very well guarded, because otherwise it starts to hallucinate with all kinds of honestly useless papers or useless data sets that have nothing to do with because it's dairy in New Zealand or because it's not verified or it's not. And so there's a much more basic missing piece is that we don't have a lot of data to actually feed any model, let alone ask any questions to a model. So that's going to be very interesting to see as that exponentially grows with all your tests, like every quarter, every year, every half a year, and getting more different kind of farmers. Like, is that a big difference actually? Look, you see, the last question always leads to other questions. Like genetics of cows, like the different types of cows. I don't know. in France they use X, and in the Netherlands that like is that very complex for you or complicated? Sorry, it's not a complex question. Is it complicated or it's relatively standard?
Love that question, because that's what farmers ask also, like, oh, but
Like, I have these cows, what do I do?
I have this like hybrid cow, like
Holsteiner,
interesting, that I, there many farmers are really into different breeds, and they ask like, oh, but I have these breeds, maybe I can't even buy EpiHerd because I can't buy genomic tests, for example, because they only, like, if I would have
I love how you
Holstein,
say epiHerd. It's like epigenetics, but it sounds like happy herd, which is sort of
happy
just
herd, exactly. I love it. Maybe we will have a side product one day named Happy Herd.
it makes your herd happy. I mean,
Yes,
it is. I mean, it's sort of true.
It's
Anyway,
true.
sorry, I'm just
No, that's funny. But EpiHerd, it doesn't matter what breed you have. Like we can deal with the data, and we get the like same insights from an Ayrshire cow, mixed breed of like Simmental and something like we have Swiss Brown. We have really strange breeds in our, or lovely, I would say. We have a cow which is like a northern Finnish, this breed which is like almost the size of a dog, and we of course when we saw it we couldn't. We had a chat. This is a farm we collaborate very closely with. We couldn't help ourselves to sample that because also it's for the conservation of the breed. It's very important information. So it doesn't matter, and we can even from this interesting breeds we can get insights to the farmers. So and there's a lot of potential there. Obviously, once we bank that data and we start to see patterns, we can be able to help farmers, like not only within your farm in terms of certain breed, like what sort of breeds you should maybe be looking at or things like that, but also in just on the global side of things. Like once we have herds from different countries with different breeds, it's getting very interesting to see what patterns we can pick out from there.
Absolutely, and especially then, of course, when the connection comes to the quality of the animal protein, in this case, the milk and the milk products coming out of that, and then, of course, the human side. We may be finally able to reward farmers that are sticking to different herds or different genetics, different geographies, really against all odds, having their cows outside all year round and actually delivering a completely different product. But until now, unless they develop their own products and butter and they manage to sell semi-directly, they're going into the big tank and it's sort of commodified, and there's no reward for that extra work they put in.
Exactly, and they should be rewarded. That's it's something that also going back to the angel investors and that, my big kind of my passion is to see that obviously now already like happy cows are happier when the farmer signs the herd up for EpiHerd. But also the farmers are happier. And
do you track that? Is there a way of also sampling their blood?
We've been discussing this.
A difficult question. Like farmers' mental health.
Yeah, we've been discussing because we see such a profound impact. Also, I mean, it's something that should be captured, and they would be incentivized. Like they're already sharing. Like as I told you, the farmer who was on this call about like buttons, like, do you like this? Yeah, do you like this interface? And started to talk about their work and like opening up about how they like it. Definitely, it's an area I would like to explore. Yeah, just to show.
We might need some wearables.
Yeah,
we need
exactly.
Some wearables, some farmers. We need to some.
Now you're giving me ideas.
And or a very simple signature could just be how many holidays, like have you taken a holiday this year, and when it was the last one you took, and I mean that's of course depends if you have somebody to take over and all, but it's an interesting signal in terms of how they are doing.
Yes.
But I would be very interested in the wearable data and potentially their blood sampling as well. Just stress like cortisone levels. Like I would like to see that honestly.
Yeah.
We're diverging from long-term vision.
Yes. Yeah, just to like finalize.
Focus.
I think we've had farmers ask like, could you test like my brother as well. Like we had a farmer asking that, which is tells a lot, I guess, about the technology. Yeah.
So the brother dressed up as a cow and then passed through the test.
Yeah, because we said obviously we're not testing humans at the moment, so no, like unfortunately that's not available. So yeah, maybe
They sneaked
they
in
would
a
find a
sample.
way.
You were like, wow, what was this blood sample? This is weird.
Exactly, this looks strange. An outlier. Yeah,
Anyway,
we would pick that up.
with that, I want to thank you so much for coming on here and spending an hour and a half with us in your very busy schedule. Of course, thank you for allowing us to invest. You're doing the hard work, not us, and we're just fortunate to be able to back people like you, and for the work you do, obviously, and spending a bit of time with us to share your journey.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It was such a pleasure. Let's make another one when we have some interesting stuff.
More data. We'll talk again.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you for listening all the way to the end. For show notes and links discussed, check out our website, investinginregenerativeagriculture.com/posts. If you like this episode, why not share it with a friend? And get in touch with us on social media, our website, or via the Spotify app, and tell us what you liked most. And give us a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or your podcast player. That really, really helps us. Thanks again, and see you next time.